Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm George Thomas. Today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying the war in Gaza is entering a decisive phase as President Trump has encouraged him to go full force and finish the job. That comes as Israel has taken out a key figure in Hamas. A dangerous drought in Iran, helping to cause major problems in that country. But some analysts say the Iranian people are blaming the government for mismanaging the problems. As 6 million Americans live with Alzheimer's, we'll hear from a former governor of Wisconsin and his 20-year journey of caring for his wife as she lived with the disease herself. And how CBN is helping teachers in Costa Rica learn how to share the gospel with children. Those stories and more today on Newswatch.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Welcome, folks. We begin in the Middle East, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war in Gaza is entering a decisive stage. But some Israelis disagree on the way forward, as the Israeli Defense Forces call up 40,000 reservists to help capture Gaza City. And Israel has announced the elimination of the chief of the Hamas propaganda arm. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
In what's described as a contentious security cabinet meeting, the IDF chief warned the takeover of Gaza City will lead to a military government and said a hostage deal should be considered. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he opposes a partial hostage deal with Hamas because it would take half a year to return to today's front lines in the face of political pressure and heavy costs. Netanyahu reportedly quoted a message from President Trump: "Forget the partial deals, go in with full force and finish this." Trump told the Daily Caller Israel is losing support on Capitol Hill the longer the war goes on. As to the future of Gaza, the Washington Post reports the Trump administration has the post-war plan to make it a 10-year U.S. trusteeship and develop it into a tourism resort and manufacturing and technology hub. Gaza's 2 million citizens would be temporarily relocated to another country or into secure zones during reconstruction. Each Gazan who chooses to leave would receive a one-time payment as well as subsidies for housing and food. Secretary of State Marco Rubio dropped a diplomatic bombshell on Friday by denying visas for Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas and 80 other PA officials, citing U.S. national security. The move upsets plans by France, Canada, the UK, and Australia to formally recognize a Palestinian state at a summit with PA President Abbas during the UN General Assembly later this month. The State Department said that would be a major propaganda victory for Hamas. The IDF confirmed it took out Hamas propaganda chief Abu Abaida on Saturday and released a video showing it's eliminated nearly all of Hamas's leadership. In Yemen, thousands of Houthis gathered to mourn their prime minister and nearly all government ministers who were killed in an Israeli strike last Thursday. Israel targeted the Houthi leadership after they launched a ballistic missile with a cluster bomb. This after a months-long campaign of missile and UAV strikes that sent millions of Israelis into bomb shelters. The acting Houthi prime minister remains defiant.
As the head of the Supreme Emergency Committee, I assure you that the supply situation is excellent. The flow of good is excellent. The enemy has failed, and the armed forces are striking the enemy.
Netanyahu reminded his cabinet that Israel has carried out strikes against Iran, which he called the head of the snake, and its proxies, and will continue to do so until victory is won.
Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. Chris, obviously Netanyahu is feeling the pressure from this White House and the whole idea of trying to finish this job and the threat from Hamas. I'm curious, how much support does he have in his own government with this whole military operation?
Yeah. Well, first, George, I would say he's very determined to end the war. Right now, military things seem to be in place. 40,000 reservists are being called up today. The Operation Gideon's Chariots, it's already in progress on the outskirts of Gaza City. It's going to be slow and methodical because what the IDF knows is that Hamas has been preparing for this offensive with booby traps and ambushes, and they're facing not only urban but tunnel warfare. But politically, time is of the essence as well. There's elections next year for the government. And more important is the support of President Trump. He's giving them the tailwind, as we said in our report. He's saying, get the job done. I would say in terms of support, George, there's majority in the government do support Netanyahu. Some actually want to go faster than he does. But as we reported in that Security Cabinet meeting, others are more cautious and are warning about the consequences of what's going to happen when and if the IDF goes ahead and takes over Gaza City, and what that would mean for the IDF.
And so to that very point, there was a report in the Wall Street Journal today that the IDF is struggling to get some 60,000 reservists to basically take control of Gaza. What are you hearing about that?
Well, I had heard on the contrary that some of the units, they're actually having more than 100%, reservists coming in back into their units, but it is very difficult. And I saw that Wall Street Journal report as well. It's very difficult for these reservists. They have families, they have businesses. Some have been away from home for hundreds of days since the beginning of the war with Hamas. So it's a very difficult balancing act for these individuals who have to be at home on the home front and then literally drive a couple of hours away or less and then go into Gaza into war. So it's a very difficult time for the IDF, but it seems like they're going to continue to go methodically and slowly to go ahead and take over the Gaza City, Hamas's last major stronghold.
Chris, you mentioned in your report that the Israelis took out a very high-ranking Hamas leadership. He was the main spokesman for the organization. How significant is this, buddy?
Pretty big, George. He played a huge role in propaganda. He had helped advance this whole narrative that Gaza is starving, even though the IDF has been sending in hundreds of trucks per day in humanitarian aid. And he also produced these gut-wrenching videos of these starving hostages inside the tunnels. Now, they were designed to just really an emotional assault, I guess, on Israelis to demand the government to do anything they can to get these hostages out. So he was really a master at propaganda. He's one of the last remaining Hamas leaders in the Gaza Strip. And so the IDF warned that Hamas leaders, believe it or not, outside of Gaza, there's maybe one major Hamas leader inside Gaza. The IDF chief of staff is warning those Hamas leaders in Doha and Turkey that they could come after them as well.
Chris, President Trump, as you mentioned in your piece, is putting a lot of heat on Netanyahu to get this job done fast and quickly because of U.S. support, especially in Congress. How would you compare Israel's military situation and its global standing today?
Well, if you look at the last 2 years, George, militarily, they're really in an unprecedented situation. 2 years ago, they were surrounded by Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, militias of Iran in Iraq and Syria and Iran itself. Now they've basically devastated Iran's so-called Ring of Fire. Hamas nearly destroyed, Hezbollah's shadow of what it was. The Houthi leadership nearly decimated last week. Yet internationally, they're becoming more isolated. There's just this concentrated push for a two-state solution by many countries.
And obviously, not just that, but then the growing, block among certain countries for an international move for a Palestinian state in the midst of all of this, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the State Department is warning that that could be a propaganda coup for Hamas. Some analysts I know said this is really like a diplomatic tsunami. Stage one, recognizing a Palestinian state by many of these nations, and Belgium is the last one to add on to the many states that want this. The next stage could be sanctions and then international isolation. One example just in the last couple of weeks is Israel has been uninvited to some of these defense fairs. And so it's very difficult on the global stage. Military stage is doing unprecedentedly well.
You look at what has transpired in the Middle East, and the countries around Israel is quite incredible. Amongst them is Hezbollah. What happened a year ago today to the terror group?
Well, George, we all remember, they call it Black September, the beeper attack, pager attack. There was a massive bombardment there in Lebanon. Elimination of Hassan Nasrallah. He was Hezbollah's main leader for decades. That was the beginning of the end of Hezbollah 1 year ago, once the strongest of Iran's proxies. Now they're literally fighting to keep whatever weapons they have left.
Yeah, in fact, to that point, the Lebanese government is putting a lot of pressure on them to disarm, which is also very good. Real quickly, tell us what you have coming up on Jerusalem Dateline while I catch my voice here.
Well, George, we have Ambassador Huckabee at a school opening. We have an interview with the former Colombian president and his support for Israel. Lori Cardoso Moore talking about the anti-Semitic curriculum, and Natsavim arming Jewish students as they go to hostile universities. And finally, CBN Israel. It's the Smile Train helping those in medical need.
All right, terrific. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, as always, my friend, thank you so much for your insights, and we look forward to hearing from you again in the days ahead. You can catch the very latest of Jerusalem Dateline at 8 p.m. Eastern on the CBN News channel. You can also watch it on the CBN News app or on YouTube. Coming up, the devastating drought that's striking the Islamic Republic of Iran. We'll show you how its impact on daily lives and the economy there when we come back.
Something has been happening on campuses across the nation.
Gen Z has been written off.
It looked like everything was okay when deep down it wasn't.
I think they've had everything the world has to offer and they're done with it.
You all are a part of a generation that God is sparking revival, and it is spreading.
It's just getting started.
Available now.
Welcome back. Among its many problems, Iran is facing a worsening water crisis. Experts say it threatens daily life, the economy, and even the political stability of the country. Take a look. Officials warn Iran's Lake Urmia, the world's second biggest saltwater lake, could be completely dry by the end of this summer. These time-lapsed satellite images from 2000 to 2025 show what was once the Middle East's largest lake shrinking dramatically year after year. Jonathan Sayer with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy says a 5-year drought, crippling power shortages, and questions over management of dams are pushing the country to the brink.
Iran is currently becoming increasingly uninhabitable, in part because of climate change, but the main culprit, at least how the Iranian people see it, is the regime's mismanagement. These mega projects created by the government continue to worsen the situations for everyday Iranians.
The strain reaches across the entire country. Industries are shutting down, schools are going dark, and millions of Iranians are struggling as the government cuts energy and water use. Tehran and other cities already face 2-hour blackouts every other day. Experts warn that could soon double to 4 hours.
For example, one day we got a text message telling us the power will be out from this time to that time. But sometimes when they announce a certain hour, the outage doesn't happen exactly then.
The issue started with water, and then it led to power outages, and now that's taking a toll on the economy. Many industrial cities are shutting down because they don't have enough electricity or water. So what we're seeing is that it's going beyond an environmental crisis and actually trickling into an economic crisis.
Chanting water and electricity are our basic rights, protesters in several Iranian cities have marched in recent weeks over repeated outages.
If someone really wanted to, they could easily solve this problem, in my opinion.
It's really an attack on Iranian sense of nationalism. A once prosperous country is now drying up, and the average Iranian from different sectors, such as the labor class that are getting laid off because of the water and power issue, as well as the day-to-day business people are also grappling with the current circumstances.
By the way, according to Iranian media, 3 of the country's major dams have already run dry this summer. Reservoirs are reportedly down to just 41% capacity. And Iran's president has warned the capital, Tehran, could run out of water entirely by the end of summer, saying, quote, "If we cannot manage and if people do not cooperate in controlling consumption, there won't be any water in dams by September or October." Still ahead, a former governor of Wisconsin tells CBN News what he learned while taking care of his wife who suffered from Alzheimer's. We'll hear from him when we come back. Welcome back. An estimated 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease, and they're often being cared for by loved ones. On this week's Healthy Living show on the CBN News channel, former Wisconsin Governor Martin Schreiber discusses his 20-year journey caring for his wife, Elaine, and his book about what he learned. Take a look.
The book I wrote is my two Elaines. And the first Elaine was this wonderful girl I met in freshman high school. And I fell in love right away, and we dated, and we went steady, and we got engaged, and we got married, and 4 children, 13 grandchildren, now 11 great-grandchildren. My friend, my advisor, my companion. And then the second Elaine, the same person, began to appear when she was about 63, 64 years of age, and she would get lost driving to and from places she had been driving for the last 10 years. She was a great cook. Sometimes she would mess up recipes so badly she would cry. She would come up with stories that I knew never happened, and it was that was the beginning of the Alzheimer's journey. And I wish it wouldn't have happened. It was a horrible, horrible experience. But what it has done is just brought forward the need for us to understand if there's one thing worse than Alzheimer's, it's ignorance of the disease. Mm-hmm. And how important it is for us to learn about that a little bit. I'm not talking about the amyloids in the head and the proteins and so forth. I'm talking about the interaction of the person living with Alzheimer's and the caregiver. So on my journey with Elaine, I found out, as there were 2 Elaines, I find out that there were also 2 Martys. The first Marty, who was independent and who would never ask for help and would always correct his wife. The second Marty cannot be independent. For his own health and life, he's got to ask for help. And also, it is not necessary to correct your loved one. So it's, yes, we wrote the book, and the goal is to help caregivers learn, cope, and survive as an Alzheimer's caregiver. And it's sort of like, the reason I wrote the book, it's sort of like I took this very arduous trail, all kinds of challenges and so forth, and now I've completed that. Now someone else is going to be on the Alzheimer's journey as a caregiver, and I want to say, please sit down and visit with me just a little bit so I can help make it just a little bit easier. Yes, it's painful, it's grieving, it's worry, it's concern, it's anger, it's frustration, it's all of those things rolled into one. And my goal is to help a caregiver learn, cope, and survive and make that journey a little bit easier.
So this is so important because there are so many caregivers out there who really don't know what they're doing.
Here's what I want every caregiver to understand, and it's very straightforward. A caregiver has a 40% chance of dying before their loved one due to stress-related illness. So understand that, number one. But then also as a caregiver, understand that there are things that you can do to make life better. When Elaine was diagnosed some 20-plus years ago, Alzheimer's could not be cured or prevented. Today, Alzheimer's cannot be cured or prevented. We have this very dire outlook, and so rather than accepting the defeat of this disease, what we can do is make a determination. We are going to help our loved one live their best life possible. And we do that by joining their world. But we also do that by the caregiver taking care of himself or herself.
What does it mean to join their world? You mentioned a moment ago, don't correct them. So if they talk about somebody who is deceased, for example, you don't necessarily need to say, no, darling, that person is no longer with us. Or if they think this, don't correct them and say, no, that's not true. That's just, that upsets them.
That's, you're exactly right on target. Elaine, in actuality, asked me, how are my parents? I said, they're both dead. No, they're not. She said, Elaine, your parents are both dead. Well, the shock on her face when she realized she didn't say goodbye, much less attend the funeral, I promised myself that I would never put her through that again. So then the next time she asked me, how are my parents? Oh, I said, they're doing well. I said, your mom likes her church work. Your dad likes his... Oh, she said, that makes me feel so good, so good. So that's what I call therapeutic fibbing in the book, therapeutic fibbing.
To hear more advice about how to care for Alzheimer's patients and how we can help those caregivers we might know, watch this week's edition of Healthy Living today on the CBN News channel at 2:30 and 8:30 Eastern. You can also see it on the CBN News app or on YouTube. Coming up, how CBN is helping to bring the gospel to children in a community in Costa Rica heavily afflicted by violence. We'll have that story for you when we come back.
Introducing a brand new way to start your morning. Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Plus, get exclusive stories and daily scripture encouragement just for you. Stay informed. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
A Superbook team in Costa Rica led teacher training for ministries serving children in one of San Jose's communities most affected by violence. The Superbook team introduced educators in Cristo para la Ciudad to its powerful Superbook Academy curriculum. Teachers received hands-on training to deliver, engage Bible-based lessons through prayer, play, and practice. The team taught these educators to share the gospel with clarity and compassion. Well, folks, that is it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. Remember, you can find more of our awesome news programs on the CBN News channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com, or you can reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, which is formerly known as Twitter. We hope you join us again next time. Goodbye, and God bless.